Welcome back. Well, if you have some old items that you think could be valuable, there's an invaluable opportunity to get them appraised by a professional, and that's this man to my left, host of Antiques Roadshow and owner of Coronado Trading Company, James Supp. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure. So let's start very basic. I know we have some items here which we'll get to in just a minute and appraise them on air, but why are appraisals important, would you say?
Well, for a lot of people, they have all these great things in their house that grandma or grandfather said was worth a lot of money, but they don't really know. And sometimes it's important to go and get a unbiased third-party opinion on the actual value of something, because we tend to think all of our junk in our trunk is worth millions of dollars, when sometimes it's worth very little.
Right, and like we were saying earlier, you manage people's expectations and say, well, this is the true value of it. What have you really done with it? And this is the reality of the situation. So on that idea, what are some general rules people should follow when they're trying to figure out if something they have is valuable?
Well, when you're going online and looking at the values of items, you really need to look at the context. If you go on eBay, someone's selling an item for $600, that doesn't mean they're actually getting $600. Right. That's how much they'd like for it. But if you look, you see completed auctions of $150 to $200 for an item that's substantially similar to yours. That's probably the right value.
Right, and as things become vintage, if their condition stays good, then that's when their value is generally going to be a little higher than other items. So we have some things in front of us here. Two of them belong to our executive producer, Ken Carr. One belongs to one of our perfect salespeople, Terry Shimenta. So let's start with maybe the Dark Tower board game, which Ken said is from 1980s, Milton Bradley. They got sued, and then they had to discontinue it.
God, you're stealing all my thunder here. So it was released in 1981. It was one of the early electronic board games. Yeah. And what's great about this one is you've got the complete original box. He actually has the original bags for all the little parts inside, and it still works. A lot of these, the bulbs would burn out, the electronics would burn out, the batteries would corrode inside. So trying to find one of these in complete working shape is very rare. In this condition, probably $150 to $250.
Okay.
But it is a very rare piece because they were sued, and there's a lot of drama behind it. So it is one of the rarest and more collectible board games.
Right, and rarity is one of those things that makes the value go up. And with time, the value will go up steadily, right? Or will it sort of flatten out?
Everything has a half-life.
Okay.
So as long as this remains in the public consciousness, as long as it has nostalgia value, it'll sell just fine. But then it'll eventually plateau, and the people who remember this from being on TV when they were a kid, they're not going to care about it. They're going to die, and no one else is going to carry on that torch.
Right.
So everything kind of goes up, plateaus, and then drops off.
Okay.
Which leads us to ivory. Okay. Well, this wonderful carved ivory tusk on a very nice base. The difficulty with ivory nowadays is because of elephants being an endangered species, and the laws are constantly changing, and the laws are very unclear. A lot of people believe that you can't sell ivory anymore. You can, but you can't sell it across state lines.
Got it. Okay.
And it's illegal to sell in certain states. So there's a lot of confusion, which has really scared the market a lot.
Right.
There are a lot of dealers who just don't want to touch ivory. They don't want to deal with the laws. Laws always changing. Yeah. So the market value of ivory has gone down dramatically. A few years ago, this tusk could be worth several $100s. Now, you're lucky if you can get $150, $200 for it.
Right.
And in 10, 15 years, probably be even less.
Well, and this is one of those things where the sentimental value might be higher than its actual intrinsic value, which I think is something very important to tell people too, is if it means something to you, you don't necessarily have to try to get money for it. If it means something, to your family, to your history, etc.
That's perfect point. Well, like Ken's grandfather's watch. It's one wonderful Bulova Accutron. His dad used to wear it all the time. Now, what's special about this watch is one of the first electronic watches powered by a battery rather than a wind-up. And it was far more accurate than the other watches of the time, and has a lot of sentimental value for him because his dad wore it every day to work.
Right.
But it's an 18-karat gold case.
Ding, 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 Mr. Ken Carr.
Exactly. It's got a replaced front crystal. It's plastic rather than glass. It's got replaced bands, but it's still in amazing condition, especially for being worn every day.
Right.
In this shape, easily $800 to $1,200 for insurance value.
Look at that. It's incredible. And I mean, you can probably do a little bit of different restoration to it that might increase the value too. So people have to wonder, once they get their item appraised, which by the way, we're going to talk about, you're going to be at the Incredible Age Expo, you're going to be speaking in front of a crowd of people, and then you're going to be doing appraisals for maybe like the first 100 people, and there is a charge for it. But people, once they know the value of their items, how can they actually go about selling it?
There's lots of different ways. I mean, you can broker it through an auction house, you can sell it to a dealer or a collector, you can sell it on Craigslist or eBay, or even through Facebook. There are so many different ways to sell things, and with the advent of online selling, there's so many avenues. So what I'd recommend is you talk to someone in the business, like an appraiser or an auction house, and get their advice. But don't just check with one place. Go to a couple different options. Look at your collectors boards, look at the collector group on Facebook, and see what they think. Okay, very good. And in general, I know you had a very strong reaction to this earlier. Are antiques and collectibles a good investment? No. I mean, I always tell people, collect what you love, because you may be stuck with it forever. I love antiques. I love collectibles. I love these things. I really enjoy talking about them, and I love just look at these things. It's so much fun. But in 15 years, this might be worth nothing. Right. Everyone will have forgotten about it. I might be stuck with it. And you never know what's going to go up in value, what's going to go down. I mean, who would have thought 20 years ago there'd be great comic book movies, superhero movies, and suddenly everything's through the roof. No way we could have predicted that. So I always tell people, collect what you love, collect what you enjoy, and if you happen to make money off of it, wonderful. It's wonderful for you. I'm totally with you there. I collect a bunch of old gadgets and computers and watches as well. So I know that they may not be worth $1 million, but to me they are, and that's what's important. So James, I'm going to let them know how people can come see you tomorrow. It's been a pleasure to speak with you as always. Thanks for joining us. Well, thank you for having me again. I really appreciate it. Of course. Now guys, again, you can meet James because he'll be appraising at the Incredible Age Expo happening tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Desert Diamond Casino at I-19 and Pima Mine Road. It's free admission, and you can learn more at kagan9.com.